Hello to all our dear students. Welcome to the Bajirao IS Academy. Today is 13th December and we are going to discuss the Daily Hindu newspaper analysis. So in today's session, we have to discuss three important articles, and the first one is related to conducting elections in Jammu and Kashmir. You know that Supreme Court in recent judgment, they favored the center's decision to abrogate Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, so we will understand that why the elections is not conducting in Jammu and Kashmir and what Supreme Court said about it. And then further, we'll move to the second article. And this article is very important for your prelims section. Okay, and this is related to science and technology, where we will understand what do you mean by gene therapy, and apart from that we have certain basic clarity on the topic like stem cells, okay, bone marrow, where bone marrow is found, and what is the importance of the stem cells, okay, and how we can tackle the sickle cell anemia, okay. And then we will further move to India's extreme rainfall corridor. So what is this extreme rainfall corridor and how it have a potential to enhance the predictability of better monsoon? Okay, so we will elaborate in great detail, but if you are liking our initiative, please do like, share, subscribe, and also share with your friend circle. So now we are starting, friends, and the first article is related to GS paper 2. Okay, so when we talk about Article 370, we know that the central government on 5th August 2019, they abrogated this article from the constitution, and after that this matter went to the Supreme Court, and now Supreme Court, after taking approx 4 years, they cleared that the center's decision to abrogate is constitutionally valid. Okay, so this is the point, but here we are not going to into the detail of nitty gritties, but we will understand that this Article 370 gave some special rights to Jammu and Kashmir, where the Indian constitution was not fully applicable in that state. Okay, and hence after the abrogation, India now have one nation, one constitution. Okay, and apart from that, the center had bifurcated the earlier Jammu and Kashmir into two UTs. Okay, one is your Ladakh, which is bigger in area. The another is your Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, but one thing you should understand that for Jammu and Kashmir, there was a provision for bringing state legislature into action. Okay, that means UT with legislature, but it was not for the Ladakh. Ladakh is completely UT. But what we have observed that even after 4 years, the state legislature was not established. Okay, and hence Supreme Court gave instructions to the Election Commission of India that to conduct the elections to the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir by September 30, 2024. Because you can understand that such a long pending state elections, okay, that also challenge the constitutional principles of parliamentary democracy. Okay, and here in this article, there is a suggestion that Supreme Court should also had given an important judgment like restoring the statehood first. Okay, so here in the judgment there was no mentioning of like restoration of a statehood. Okay, and when we talk about the center's argument, so center government argued that once there will be stability in Jammu and Kashmir, we will restore the statehood. Okay, so this statehood issue affects the federal autonomy to the province. Okay, and it is better to address the concerns of the electorate, because we can understand that the constituency of the state is lying vacant. Okay, and also even if the elections gets conducted, the control of the Jammu and Kashmir UT will be mainly under the union government. Okay, so that will affect the federalistic principles of our Indian constitution. Okay, and one thing also, that since June 2018, governor's rule and president rule is applicable and without a legislative assembly. So such a long duration we do not have the election, so that affects the concerns of the voters, that affect the concerns of the peoples residing there. Okay, and also affecting the parliamentary democracy. So that is the point which has been highlighted in this article. Now we are shifting to the second article, and for this article kindly listen carefully, because this will be helping you in the prelims as well as mains. Okay, and one important thing, like if we or you read this article, so there was about 3 questions you can solve from the previous year prelims question. Okay, such an important article is this. Okay, so try to understand this article in detail, as this is related to science and technology. This will help to understand the basics background of the science, specifically related to the biology. Okay, so what is the context here? So first of all, we will understand that sickle cell disease. You know that India has huge burden of sickle cell disease, and apart from that, when we talk about other disease, specifically related to non-communicable disease or the genetical disease, the burden is also very high. Okay, and recently, scientists or the researchers from the Western country like UK and the US, they have experimented a way to better cure the sickle cell disease, because there is only one therapy for treating the sickle cell disease, and that is like bone marrow or stem cell transplantation. So we will understand what do you mean by this sickle cell disease, how do they cause, and what are the symptoms and the effects. Then we will further move to the basics of the article discussion. Okay, so when we talk about sickle cell anemia, so it is inherited blood disorder. Okay, and when we talk about blood disorder, that means in blood we have the hemoglobin. You can see here that this is the normal structure of the RBC, and this is the abnormal structure. Okay, and in the normal structure you are seeing that the RBC is in mostly circular in shape, and in the abnormal RBC you are seeing that the shape of the RBC is like crescent. Okay, like you see the moon in the crescent shape. Okay, so it is like that. So what happens in the normal RBC, like in RBC we have the hemoglobin. Okay, and hemoglobin contains oxygen. Okay, this contains oxygen, and the blood gets distributed to all the parts of the body. Okay, and the cell gets oxygen from the hemoglobin as well, and that's why the blood is red in color. Okay, so if the normal RBC is there, so the flow of the blood is very easy. Okay, and there is no blockade. But if there is sickle cell disease, so what happens, like your normal RBC becomes crescent shape, and you are seeing that hemoglobin is getting stuck to each other. So this affects the normal flow of the blood, and also causes lack of oxygen to the destination cells in the body. We have crores and crores of cells in our body, and if, let's say, we have this abnormality, so our cell will face oxygen deficiency, and hence we feel tiredness, we feel fatigue. Okay, and this affects our productivity and many of that, and hence treating this inherited blood disorder becomes very necessary. But what is the problem here? The problem is that currently we have only bone marrow or a stem cell transplantation technology to cure this. Okay, So that's why the development of gene therapy or the research or the experiments related to gene therapy in treating sickle cell disease is very important. We will understand this in detail as well. Okay, so we have told you the basics, and remember, in the sickle cell disease scenario, the blood contains hemoglobin S. Okay, in normal blood we have the hemoglobin, but in case of sickle cell disease, let's say a person is facing, so their blood will contain hemoglobin S. And what this hemoglobin S do, like it can distort the red blood cell into sickle or the crescent shape. Okay, and this cause the blood to become rigid and sticky, which can slow or block the blood flow. Okay, so that is the basic background. So what is the treatment here? The treatment is bone marrow transplant or a stem cell transplant. To understand this, we need to understand what do you mean by stem cells. Okay, although UPSC did ask about stem cells in the prelims, and when we talk about stem cells, so these are a specialized cell. Let's say a children, let's say when he or she is in the developmental stage in the embryo, so the embryo contains stem cells, and the stem cells has a special feature that they can convert into different organs as well, into different cells as well. Okay, so these stem cells are found in the bone marrow, and that's why we say that the RBC gets generated in the bone marrow, because a stem cells is also a cells. Okay, so you should understand, and this leads to the creation of RBC. Okay, but the problem arises when the stem cells do not have the normal cells or do have abnormality. So what will happen, that they will generate RBC, but not of the normal characteristics, but of abnormal characteristics, like they will contain hemoglobin S, which will be in the crescent shape. Okay, so what needs to be done? So definitely we need to like extract out these abnormal cells from the bone marrow, and we will treat this outside, and then we will transplant with the healthy normal cells. So what will be the after effect? The after effect will be that the body will start producing the normal cells. Okay, so this is the scenario and how the bone marrow transplant occurs. Now you will be wondering that what is bone marrow? Okay, so when we talk about bone marrow, so it is like soft, spongy tissue in the body, and that contains hematopoietic stem cells. Okay, and it is found in the center of the most bone, or you can say that whenever there is a joints in our body. Okay, so they are found here, like in the legs between the joints. Okay, like here it can be found, like here it can be found, like here it can be found. So from all these, okay, we have the genesis of the stem cells as well as the RBC. Okay, so hope you understood the basics of the bone marrow. Okay, and this bone marrow are also found in the blood. Okay, so in the sickle cell issue, what happens, that these stem cells are damaged. Okay, and that's why they may not become the red blood cell, or the red blood cell will contain hemoglobin S. Okay, that is the abnormal RBC, and hence there will be lack of sufficient oxygen delivering into the cells. Okay, and that affects the entire mental health, physical health of the body of a person. Okay, that's why the treatment is very much necessary. Okay, and we already said you that there is only one treatment, like bone marrow transplantation. So if there is a research, if there is a development of other techniques to deal with this, like issue. So that is a good development. Okay, so the recent context is that, like, the UK drug regulator, okay, approved Cas-Gibi, and remember these names because UPSC can ask that. Recently Cas-Gibi lifezenia was in news. It is related to what? So this is related to the developing technique for treating the sickle cell anemia, okay, sickle cell disease. Okay, so these are like gene therapy. Okay, and in gene therapy, what we do, we try to experiment with the genes of the person. Okay, we will try to, like, change the bad genes with the good genes. Okay, or we will try to ensure that there is good genes gets produced in the body. Okay, so when we talk about two gene therapy, however, their methodology are different, but objective is same. Okay, so we will understand the methodology one by one. First of all, for the lifezenia gene therapy, what will be the procedure? Like, in this procedure, there will be the use of lentivirus as a vector, and this lentivirus will be used to introduce into the blood stem cells with a new gene for hemoglobin. Okay, and that new gene will be producing the normal hemoglobin. Okay, so that is the first case. And for the second gene therapy, like Cas-Zebi, so what this procedure is about, like, it uses gene editing tool, and we are better known for this gene editing tool, that is CRISPR Cas9. UPSC prelims also asked this. Okay, so what happens, this is like Caesar. Okay, and to understand, I take an example. Suppose there is a wire. Okay, and if this wire is damaged in between, okay, so what you do, you cut this wire, okay, the abnormal, and then you join with the normal wire. Okay, so the electricity starts flowing. So similarly, we have the gene. Okay, and gene is like contains the information. Okay, so if there is a problem in certain section of the gene, what will we do? We will cut that section, and the cell has the quality to redevelop into again. Okay, so they will again join with the healthy gene. So the problem will be eliminated, and the methodology we use is the CRISPR Cas9. Remember this. Okay, so you can see that from this CRISPR Cas9, we will disable the particular gene that produces the bad RBC. Okay, or we can say the fetal hemoglobin. Okay, so that is the solution methodology. But there is a, like, problem here. We will discuss, but what is the significance of this development? Like, the number of patients who can be potentially treated will be becoming larger. Okay, more people will get treated because in this current technology of bone marrow, we need bone marrow donors, so that a good and healthy a bone marrow should be donated. Okay, that can be utilized for, like, good red blood cell generation. Okay, so we need to find that person. Okay, and if the bone marrow does not match, that means the treatment will not be there. Okay, so that is the difficulty in the current treatment. So if this gene therapy becomes available, the number of patients to be treated will become increased. Okay, and more people will be tackled, and we are seeing that the sickle cell disorder is very high in number. Okay, so it will address that, but there is a some hurdle, like, the treatment will be exorbitantly expensive. That means very much expensive. Okay, and also it requires bigger technology, bigger equipment. So only certain hospitals, the richer hospitals, okay, will be able to provide these services, and for the poorer peoples, for the poorer sections, maybe this will not be available. And also we have the limited clinical trials done for this technique, and it should be based on more evidence. Okay, and there is a issue of side effect as well, because when we talk about gene therapy or like cutting the bad genes and rejoining it, okay, so there can be the side effect as well. So can you tell me another side effects of this technology? Try to elaborate, try to think, and please do comment as well in the chat box. Okay, so friends, after doing this, now we are shifting to the third article discussion. Okay, and in this article we will understand that the early warning system that we use now for the prediction of the monsoon is based on dynamicity. Okay, and what do you mean by dynamicity? We try to include various factors that affect the monsoon pattern. So tell me, what are the factors that affect the monsoon? You can say that latitude, altitude. Okay, you can also say La Nina, El Nino, Indian Ocean dipole. Okay, but our Indian Meteorological Department mostly rely on La Nina, El Nino, and Indian Ocean water temperature. Okay, so we will discuss any other day regarding how the IMD try to predict the a status of the monsoon. Okay, but here we are talking like there is another like a study has been done that talks about that in India there is a certain corridor, or you can say that highway. Okay, and in that corridor, if there is excessive rainfall is happening, okay, or if there is chances of excessive rainfall, that means the monsoon will be sufficient, okay, or maybe higher than the normal. Okay, but if that corridor is facing the deficit or like reduction in the rainfall, extensive rainfall, so there is a chances that there can be the deficit monsoon. So via this we can understand, or we can better predict the monsoon pattern or the upcoming monsoons in India. Currently, the monsoon had already been gone, and now we are entering into the winter season. Okay, so this is the point which has been highlighted in this article. Okay, and apart from that, we know that there is another dynamic factor which is going to affect the monsoon in India. It is your global warming. Okay, and we use various techniques, technology, but sometimes our technology also gets failed. Okay, and we are not able to anticipate correctly. Okay, and we have already told you that we mostly rely on El Nino and La Nina phenomena. Tell me the El Nino and La Nina phenomena. I already explained you very much in a deeper mode about this concept and how it do affects the monsoon in India. Okay, and tell me also about ENSO. Okay, this will help you to recall the concept, and better the recalling, better you can learn, remember, and understand the topic. Okay, so this is the point. So as we already said that there is a new way of prediction which is being proposed in a study. Okay, and it has been found that we uses the dynamic factors to predict the monsoon, but there can be a remarkable a stationary element that can exist. Okay, and via that we can understand the more predictability, more quality of the early warning system. Okay, so what is this like rainfall corridor? Okay, so in this rainfall corridor, what happened, like we have the map of India. Okay, let's say we draw the map. Sorry for the mistake, but okay, let's draw freshly. Okay, so this is the map of India. So what happens in the corridor? Okay, or extensive rainfall corridor, like we have the certain region, okay, that acts as a highway, and it extends from West Bengal. Here it is West Bengal. Okay, Odisha it is here. Okay, and also to certain parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan. So there is a extensive rainfall in this region, in certain parts of this region. Okay, and this can help in predicting the rainfall quality in terms of intensity, in terms of amount. Okay, and this is based on the study of certain years and observations. Okay, so that is the point which has been highlighted in this article. And what will be the benefit of this study? Like, we can make our rainfall or the monsoon forecasting better and more enhanced. Okay, and this can be utilized for improving our forecasting system. And as we know that currently our Indian meteorological department do have the technique, but sometimes they fail. Okay, we can say that the prediction they provide sometimes gets deferred. Okay, so this hypothesis needs to be like applied, but before that testing is needed. Okay, proper testing, proper analysis is needed to incorporate into that. And here I have given some slide to you, like what are the factors that affect the monsoon in India. We have the climatic corridors, we have the Himalayas that affect the Indian monsoon. Okay, and we already talked about La Nina, El Nino. Okay, and continentality. Tell me, what do you mean by continentality, and how the continentality have an influence of rainfall deficit or rainfall surplus in India? Okay, so that is the homework for you. And now we are shifting to the prelims rapid fire. Try to pause the video, solve the question, and give the answer in the chat box. Okay, so friends, that is the end of the session. Hope you understood, and we will meet again for the next short of session. Thank you very much.